Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, Justin Smith there, scouting and recruiting analyst at Touchdown Alabama. Welcome into the process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news. Before I dive into today's show, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Subscribers, hit that notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on this episode. I will talk about some updates from the Crimson Tide Champions Cookout event, which happened on last weekend. Also talk about one of the Crimson Tide's top 2023 defensive lineman targets, announcing his commitment date. Talk about where I feel the Tide stand in this recruitment heading into his decision. I will also discuss the Crimson Tide targeting some other prospects who are verbally committed to other programs after flipping four-star tight end Ty Lockwood from the Ohio State Buckeyes earlier this week. No need to delay. Let's dive right into some updates from the Champions Cookout, starting with 2024 five-star defensive back Ellis Robinson, who's set to play his junior season at IMG Academy, will transfer down to Bradenton, Florida, to see an uptick in competition for sure, as he will play a national schedule with the Ascenders. Todd actually offered him a while ago, have gotten him on campus a couple of times since then. Of course, his latest visit happened over the weekend. Every time he gets down at Tuscaloosa, he always has rave reviews for the Tide. I know he's building his relationship with the Crimson Tide's cornerbacks coach Sharif Robinson. They have a relationship that dates back to his time in Miami. He's getting to know Nick Saban a lot better by continuing to get on campus, but this visit was a little bit different because he got to vibe with some guys who are verbally committed to the Crimson Tide. I know you guys see them on Twitter recruiting guys. Of course, they are doing it in person when these guys come to Tuscaloosa and visit, and they are on campus as well. Got an opportunity to catch up with several Alabama commits and several different recruiting classes like Caleb Downs and Jalen Mbakwe, who is a five-star defensive back who's verbally committed to the Tide in the 2024 class. I think the best quote and the strongest quote that I was able to get from Ellis Robinson concerning his visit was that this is what he said: "I am learning it takes a special player to go to Bama. It's a culture there that's different than any other school I've been to." So the Crimson Tide are really impressing this five-star defensive back really early in his recruitment. Although he has a long list of offers, several impressive offers on his offer list, it is still a bit earlier in his recruitment, and the Tide are sitting in a really good position with him in terms of what he brings to the table. He's a talented defensive back who plays, especially during his sophomore season, played a lot older than he was in terms of what he was able to do on the field. Able to come down and help and run support, make some break tackles like the one you just saw on his film right there. A guy who excels in man coverage, especially against the competition that he faced as a sophomore. Seemed like he was better than most guys on the field, I felt, on last season. So he'll have an opportunity to play at IMG Academy this upcoming season. Like I said, play against an uptick in competition, but the Tide look to be in a really good position with Robinson at the moment. He's excited to continue building his relationship with the Crimson Tide's coaching staff. Another top target for the Crimson Tide who was on campus this weekend was four-star wide receiver Jalen Hill out of Texas, who is a prospect in the 2023 recruiting class who the Tide are going after when it comes to wide receivers at the moment. They are targeting several other wide receivers after picking up verbal commitments from Cole Adams and JUCO four-star wide receiver Malik Benson a little bit earlier in this recruiting cycle. And Hale is a guy who they have been recruiting for several years. An opportunity to catch up with him at the Under Armour Future 50 event a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that he has been building a relationship with the Crimson Tide's head coach Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide's wide receiver coach Harmon Wiggins ever since he was a sophomore. So their relationship is pretty solid at the moment. So he had an opportunity to get back to Tuscaloosa, connect with both of those guys, but he also got an opportunity to hang with some Alabama commits, and they had some great conversations. I will read a quote that I got from Hale as well when he talked about his the time he spent with some Alabama commits over the weekend. He said they were just vibing and talking about basically not so recruiting, trying to get him to Tuscaloosa, but trying to get to know him on a personal level and tell him why they committed to Alabama and what they feel the future will be like in Tuscaloosa. Just talking about their experience in Tuscaloosa after verbally committing to the Crimson Tide. So we'll see what happens with Jalen Hill's recruitment moving forward. The Tide are in a really good position with them, in my opinion, especially after this visit, with them getting back to Tuscaloosa after already having an official visit date scheduled to Alabama as well. He is set to officially visit when Alabama takes on the Utah State Aggies in Bryant-Denny Stadium to kick off the season. So he will definitely get back to Tuscaloosa before he's expected to announce a decision, possibly on September 22nd. He previously said that was his commitment date. He also has an official visit date scheduled to Texas. Of course, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas is listed in his final 3 at the moment. Took an official visit to Georgia over the summer. So I think the Tide are in an improved position with Hill after this visit. I think they are definitely closing in on possibly being a leader in his recruitment. So we will definitely keep our eyes on him in this upcoming decision, which is expected on September 22nd. Another Alabama commit who has a commitment day schedule is Kelby Collins, a 4-star defensive lineman out of Gardendale High School in Gardendale, Alabama. He will announce his commitment on August 13th. Of course, the Crimson Tide is one of his final schools. We can take a look at his top 5, which was the latest top school list he released before announcing his commitment date on today. Actually, he has Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and Oklahoma as his top 5 schools heading into his decision. Of course, he took several official visits in June. He officially visited South Carolina, went to Georgia, and also got an opportunity to get to Florida, actually return to Gainesville over the weekend to take another visit to the Gators before he decided to announce his commitment date, which is set to happen next week on August 13th. Of course, this is coming down most likely to a Florida-Alabama battle, which is something we talked about on the process in the past, because that is what it was shaping up to be. I know I called South Carolina a dark horse at one point. They looked as if they were gaining some momentum, especially by getting him on campus for an official visit, trying to sell that he can make a change in their program, because they are going to need some elite guys in their program in the future. But with the Gators getting him back on campus this past weekend, it looks as if it's going to come down to the school he grew up loving, the school he grew up a fan of, which is Alabama, and the Florida Gators, who have done a really good job recruiting him. I think the Tide are still in a really good position with Collins. Like I said, he grew up in Alabama, guys similar to Hunter Osborne. I remember of course, on Monday, Osborne announced his commitment, and minutes later, he said he was going to definitely try to recruit Kelby Collins, try to get him to Tuscaloosa. I know when the Crimson Tide first offered Kelby before last summer, he said he had been waiting on that offer beforehand, so this offer he definitely wanted. And the Crimson Tide's defensive line coach Freddie Roach, I feel, has done a really good job not only building his relationship with Collins, he has continued to build a relationship with Collins' parents as well. So I think the Tide are in a really good position heading into his decision. Will be another dogfight for the Tide, trying to keep an in-state prospect home. I know they had to fight it out with Clemson to keep Hunter Osborne inside the state. We'll see if they can fight out the Gators to keep Collins in state in the future. But in terms of what he brings to the table, physical defensive lineman similar to Osborne, a bit of a tweener, could grow into an interior guy, could be an edge rusher. I think he has a better upside as an edge rusher than Osborne does at the moment. Like I said, he's more of a power rusher, like similar to Osborne. Both guys are just naturally strong guys. And one of the things I think that we are going to see out of Collins this upcoming season, I know you see his film now, you see he's pushing a lot of guys out the way, showing some good speed off the edge and some power. But I think we're going to see a lot more rush moves this upcoming season, and an opportunity to make it out of Gardendale this spring, and I saw him incorporate a lot of rush moves in his game, some swim moves. I'm getting better with his hands, so I think we're going to see him improve his hand movement this upcoming season. You see, he tackled Jaleel Hurley, the Crimson Tide 5-star defensive back commit, on that last play. So Hurley is like one of the guys who is recruiting Collins as well to the Crimson Tide at the moment. So Kelby Collins set to announce his commitment on August 13th, most likely going to come down to the Florida Gators and the Crimson Tide, as the Tide tried to keep the in-state prospect at home. The Crimson Tide's commits are working really hard on the recruiting trail at the moment, trying to recruit a lot of guys to Tuscaloosa, and Keon Keely is one of those guys, 5-star defensive end out of Florida, who's verbally committed to Notre Dame. If you have been on social media recently, especially Twitter, The Crimson Tide's commits in the 2023 and 2024 recruiting classes are sending strong messages to Keon Keely, telling him that they want him in Tuscaloosa in the future. The Crimson Tide's 5-star running back commit Richard Young tweeted that he basically said, "Mark my words, I am going to get Keon Keely to flip to Alabama." So the Crimson Tide's coaching staff really like Keely. In my mind, just have that prototypical size for what Alabama is looking for at the outside linebacker position. A physical guy who can make some big hits. Great size, 6'6", long, lengthy outside linebacker who actually said when he got offered the Crimson Tide that he models his game after long and explosive, strong edge rushers like the Crimson Tide's former outside linebacker Terrell Lewis. Of course, he got back down to Tuscaloosa last weekend for the Champions Cookout, and the Tide looked to have some momentum heading into his upcoming decision. Physical, long. Like I said, I think he just has so much potential as an edge rusher at the next level. See him powering through blocks like he did on that last play, putting constant pressure on the quarterback. Consistently comes off the edge with that type of power. See playing sideline to sideline, good closing speed. Once again, powering through blocks. So you see what Keon Keely brings to the table. The Tide is really excited to continue to recruit him. I'm pretty sure the Notre Dame Fighting Irish definitely want to keep him on board. So we'll see how his recruitment plays out heading into the fall. I'm pretty sure he's excited about his upcoming season as well. Another top target for Alabama out of Florida is Jaron Hamilton, a 2023 wide receiver who the Tide really seem to like and are picking up their interest in after offering him in June. Got him back on campus this past weekend for the Champions Cookout, and it was a great visit. He said he feels that he's building a real connection with Alabama's coaching staff. I know that his offer came a little bit later in the recruiting process, but the Crimson Tide wide receiver coach Hallman Wiggins has been in constant contact with Hamilton. He said he feels that you can tell that there's something real there, not just a recruiting relationship, until that they have a connection and a bond that they are starting to build. So we'll see what happens as his recruitment moves forward. He does not have a commitment date, does have a top 7, has locked in an official visit. He will be officially visiting the Crimson Tide when they take on the Auburn Tigers in the Iron Bowl, which is always a good game, always a great event to go to, with it being such a huge rivalry, one of the more storied rivalries in the world of college football. In terms of what Hamilton brings to the table, a lot of speed, impressive route runner, one of the best route runners in the 2023 recruiting class, but he's still continuing to grow in that area. Definitely wants to be more polished heading into his senior season. Like I said, as you guys can see on this play, can make some moves in the open field, and when he breaks in the open field, he definitely is not a guy who's going to get caught. So with the Tide showing an increased interest in him, showing some continued interest in Jalen Hill as well, it'll be interesting to see how many wide receivers the Crimson Tide pull in this 2023 recruiting class, and Hamilton looks to be one of their top targets, a guy who they really like heading into his senior season after he had an impressive camp showing in June. Just a naturally athletic kid who will definitely rise up recruiting rankings once the season gets started. I think he's a guy who has not had an opportunity to be evaluated as some other guys when it comes to looking at his rating on recruiting sites. So I definitely think he will get more attention this upcoming season. I plan to get out to one of his games a little bit earlier so I can bring you guys an in-person evaluation as well. So I think he will probably max out to be like a 4-star wide receiver easily once things continue to be evaluated, once players continue to be evaluated in this 2023 recruiting class during their senior season. The last prospect I want to talk about on today's show is a guy who's verbally committed to the Florida Gators. Like I said at the top, the Crimson Tide are still going after guys who are verbally committed to other programs. 4-star defensive back Sharif Denson actually got an offer from the Crimson Tide recently, and it looks as if the Tide are going to shake up his recruitment a little bit. Has already locked in an official visit to Tuscaloosa. He will be in Tuscaloosa when the Crimson Tide take on the Texas A&M Aggies in a highly anticipated matchup on October 8th inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. So the Crimson Tide will have an opportunity to roll off the red carpet for Sharif for an official visit during the season. I think those official visits, in my opinion, just from the outside looking in, I think those official visits maybe a little better, just getting an opportunity to watch a game, especially a game like the Texas A&M game, which is a highly anticipated matchup this season. But Denson is one of those old school defensive backs, in my opinion. I know when we talk about just new age defensive backs, especially cornerbacks, we talk about guys with great length, 6'2", long arms. But this guy is like 5'11", bit on the shorter side, just a dog at cornerback. A guy, as you guys can see, he's gonna catch this guy. Shows off some nice speed, great in man coverage. You see that he can basically run with any wide receiver, can come downhill, make some tackles, made a tackle in the hole on that particular play. So we see that he can do a lot of different things. Like I say, he's more of a traditional cornerback, a guy who can just do really good things in man coverage like on that play. So it'll be interesting to see how his recruitment plays out with him verbally committed to the Gators. I think that Todd definitely have his interest by putting an offer on the table. We will see how things play out with Denson as he's verbally committed to the Gators, set to officially visit Alabama on October 8th. A guy to definitely keep your eyes on as a flip target for Alabama in the 2023 recruiting class. I know on that play, on that last play before he closed the show, we saw he made that hit a little bit too high, but he's a decent tackler. As you see on this play, he knows to get low. But that's what I want to talk about on this episode of The Process. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Subscribers, hit that notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com, pick up your subscription today. With that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber only articles. Several subscriber-only articles are on our site at the moment. Basically, some updates from last weekend's Champions Cookout and some other updates about other Alabama targets as well. So be sure to pick up that subscription. We are gearing up to release that magazine issue pretty soon. It will be packed with recruiting content, so be sure to pick up that subscription for that as well. With that subscription, you'll get access to all of our printed magazine issue, so be sure to go ahead and pick up your subscription today. Then head over to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device to download the Touchdown Alabama app. With that app, breaking news notification can be sent to your mobile device. If you have an Apple device, download the app in the Apple App Store. But thank you guys so much for joining me today. I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.